Here we go.
Okay. So apart from Monique, how many of you have heard of Let's Learning English Through Story Time? Okay, good. It's a program that came initially was from Belmont Library, and they've been running it for some years, as a couple of years as a pilot program. They went over to Victoria, to Brimbank Libraries, I think it was, to have a look at a similar program there, brought it back here and have adapted it for themselves. And it was this program that we got interested in at the State Library, because through the Better Beginnings program we've been made aware that that was something that libraries were wanting to try and do more, to see how they can engage and work with families from diverse backgrounds. So Tricia and I sort of went out, did an observation and spent some time with Edith and at Belmont, and they were kind enough to lend us their framework that they'd put together. And Tricia has then adapted that for the State Library. Everybody who's been involved to date does have some teaching background, but we're looking at the program as a library-based program and looking at developing the resources so that they can be used by anybody. So a little bit more about that later. So Tricia piloted the program at the State Library last year, and about that time Wanneroo got really interested and wanted to, can we pick me, you know? So we talked to Wanneroo and shared our lesson plans with Wanneroo, and now Wanneroo has also been piloting it. So that kind of brings us to this point, and there was the recent WA Adult Literacy Conference, and I made us put in a submission for this a workshop around the Let's program. And the approach that we took for that one was, because they were people who didn't come from a library background, but the way we presented it was a little bit like how we actually run a session. So we're going to do that again today to some extent, although we may not do all of the activities, but the way we're going to do the presentation is actually taking you through some of the different steps of the program. And as we said, it's a bit of a taster, because the next thing for us is looking at, well, how can we share this more widely? And we'll talk a bit about that at the end. So before we start, so we'll be giving you a little bit of background about the program and other things, but the first thing we thought we'd do is we'd start with our welcome song. So this is one, you can, when we're doing this, well, we'll talk about setup and things later, but the sessions, they always start the same way, and it's always with the welcome song. So perhaps you'd like to join in with me. Oh, what do you think my name is? I wonder if you know. My name is Jane. Hello, 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 hello. Oh, what do you think my name is? I wonder if you know. My name is Fish. Hello, 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 hello. What do you think my name is? I wonder if you know. My name is Angela. Hello, 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 hello. Oh, what do you think my name is? I wonder if you know. My name is
Catherine.
Hello, 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 hello. We won't go right round the table. But when we did the session, it was quite interesting, because as you can imagine, most of the people we're talking to are used to working with adult learners, and so we had to invite them to just let go a little bit. You guys are familiar with doing rhyme times and story times and that kind of thing, but it's always interesting when you do it with a group of adults and it's not their usual way of working. So what is Let's? It's as I've said, it's Learning English Through Story Time, and it's a structured family literacy program for culturally and linguistically diverse parents and carers and their children aged about 3 to 4. So the session format focuses on English speaking and listening skills, using songs, rhymes, activities to support the development of home literacy practices. And while there's lots of formal education options out there for adults to learn English, many adults with young families, particularly women, prefer a more informal approach to start their English language learning. Let's being non-formal, it's incorporating what's often referred to as a social capital approach to adult literacy, and so it's really suited to that particular group of learners. We all say that our libraries are spaces where everyone's welcome, regardless of social status, and we're one of the few places that caters for people of all ages, from birth to old age. Our main aims are to develop and grow readers, to facilitate and support that sense of belonging, and then also we're community partners to support with and engage in community engagement. So for some people though, and I think I've talked about this before, they feel that the library is not a place for them. They may have low literacy or haven't actually experienced libraries where in their country of origin, and so we need to engage with these people who aren't library users and gather and go to them rather than waiting for them to come to us. So the Let's initiative is an example of the many cross-sector approaches to develop literacy through collaborations between State Library, Public Library and other agencies supporting families. I mentioned that it had come from Belmont and they've adapted it, and the next stage that we're going to do is to look at developing a toolkit for public libraries. We've developed a shared framework for the content, and that's what Trisha's built in, is the early years learning framework, belonging, being, becoming, and so forth. So, just to go back to family learning, those of you who listened to me last time, I talked about the family learning aspect of things, and that the connection that there is between family literacy practices and adult literacy. And that how important, as we know, that the parental involvement is vital to a child's success at school. And so the family learning is an intergenerational approach encompassing all the foundation skills of learning, language and cognitive development. And also it in turn is supporting parents and carers so that they can assist their children's foundation skills development and readiness for school. So it's important that you think of this program as much as an adult literacy program and family learning program as a kids program. So if you do choose to think about implementing it in your libraries, it's really important that you get everybody in your library engaged with it and talk to your adult services people as well, because it's very much an adult literacy approach as much as anything else, because they're learning age-appropriate activities to share with their children while they're developing their own literacy skills. And they're learning the skills, getting the skills and knowledge that they need to create that learning-rich home environment, as we've talked about preparing for school. Social capital is all about parents developing their sense of community, building new networks, beginning to learn more about their newly adopted identity and gaining access to knowledge and new skills. And that in turn can lead to the improvements in their own socio-economic well-being and that of the community that they belong to. And we've observed these social capital outcomes being achieved over the course of the program as participants build trust with us and the libraries. They develop new net relationships as they get to know each other, and new networks as well, because they keep in touch after the sessions and their growing confidence and ability in how they use the library, interact with other library programs and resources. So the program is aimed at, oops, I've gone too far, parents and carers, as I said, with children aged 3 to 4, for whom English is an additional language. Where we can, we try to target adults or families where they're not enrolled in a formal learning language course such as AMEP. And so that means it's often better to try and connect with some of the local community agencies working with refugees and asylum seekers or supporting families in your area. And it is helpful if the parents do have a bit of an understanding and are able to speak some English. And while it's as much about them building and practicing English for themselves and with their children, and we have worked with some adults who have very, very little English. It's a little bit harder, but over time they do engage and you know become a part of the group as well. So, okay, I've lost a slide somewhere. It says the way we've been doing it and working with Wanneroo is it's a structured framework of 10 45-minute interactive sessions for learning, always in a small group of 8 to 10 is preferable. It's modelled on story time with adults, but it's story time, but it's just extending it a little bit further so that they can practice reading, writing and speaking. And we talk about the benefits of sharing books. It's the same format each week with sessions building on the previous one. Things that are learnt in sessions will then be incorporated into further sessions such as colours and counting and those kinds of things. It's flexible to adapt to community needs, and we've certainly discovered that as we've worked with Wanneroo. And all of the activities, we aim to make them easily replicable at home as well. It's followed by some time to socialise, and then also it's an opportunity to draw the families in and connect them with local, your existing library programs. As I mentioned before, everyone in the library is involved with LETS to some extent. It's ideal that you have a coordinator who plans the program and then operates in consultation with your library team. You can need to work and connect with community partners to identify and recruit the adults and families. If you choose, you could have a facilitator who plans and guides each session, but it's possibly more likely to be the coordinator and the facilitator initially. The coordinator is the facilitator, but then as the program becomes more established, you may be able to change that structure. But of course, everybody, as I said, everybody in the library gives ongoing support and encouragement to the families and help adults practice their English in a real community setting. So that's giving you a bit of an overall background about why, and I'll now hand over to Tricia and Angela, who will take us through some other elements of the program.
Okay, would it be better if I sat here, Shirley?
Yes, please.
Yes, okay.
Should I do PowerPointing or
Is Trish blocking the screen, or is
am I
everybody
blocking the
okay?
screen? All right. All okay.
Okay. As Jane said, I'm from Wanneroo Library Services, and we heard about LETS and thought it was a great initiative, so I was able to watch a couple of sessions that Tricia was doing, and then we ran our pilot in term 1. We're currently not running it because we're evaluating what we did just to tweak what we're doing so that it's as best suited to our library at Girraween with our demographic there as it can be, recognising that the State Library demographic isn't necessarily the same, and this will be the case for all of you, I'm sure. But that being said, it's a fantastic program, and I think one of the keys to it is the fact that, as Jane said, it's quite structured and elements of it build from week to week, but you're basically sticking to the same format and the same setup. The handout that you've got there, which looks something like that, is quite an expanded version of what Edith, who ran the program at Belmont, was initially using, and then Tricia developed for State Library. So we've basically padded it out to give you a fuller picture of what we would do in a normal session. As you see on the front there, there are educational outcomes for adults as well as the educational outcomes for children, because we recognise that it is an adult learning program, an adult literacy program and a family learning program, rather than just you know, a traditional child-focused story time program. But you can read all of those in your own time anyway. There's a list there of all the resources and things, and that of course makes it easier for you when you're doing your session to make sure you have everything that you need. And it's really important, as I said, to set up the space really well. So before the session even starts, as you see from the slides here, we have the same setup every week. This makes it obviously comfortable for families coming into the library. They know to go to the same space. Trish was very lucky to have the education rooms at State Library as a separate area that the families could be in, whereas us in Girraween Library, we just had the library, and it's quite a small, very old 70s library. We had an open space at the back with our children's area, and I made the decision to set up there with everybody's backs to the rest of the library, so they're not distracted by everything that's going on, but we've got that nice little look at the back. You can see we've got the row of chairs, sorry, the previous, yeah, the row of chairs there, the white chairs there for the adults to sit on, and their child sits in front of them so that both are engaged, and if the child's wanting to wander off, then the parent's at hand to be able to help them to focus. In this case, Tricia was using the easel there with A3 laminated copies of songs and things. We're lucky at Girraween that we've had whiteboards, interactive boards for a while, so I made the decision to use USB and have all the songs on that, and anything, key info, if we were missing a week I could put that on there, and that helped to explain, so that was a good option for us as well. You can see Trish is very neat and it's all very organised.
That's before.
That's called OCD.
Yeah, and I'm a bit the same too, so it looks quite similar to ours, but nice bright cushions and things to make it a really inviting space for everybody is the key thing. All your things like your box of books for people to have a look at as they come in. It's really good to have that all set up as when you come in, and the craft set up on tables in a different room if possible, or at the back of everything, so that kids aren't racing in and seeing the craft and being distracted by that. You can see on the right there, Trisha's got the table set up for the craft activity for the food, was it the food week?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, for the food week, and on the left is a photo, we did the same at Wanneroo with a whole bunch of coloured cushions on the floor and a big basket of, or tub of books, so that as families come in, as you'll see from the outline, we welcome them. They all have a name badge, both adults and carers and children, and the children assist the parents to find their own name badge and the parent's name badge, so it's really good practice for the children and for the parent and child to engage with each other and with the staff running the program. We start off with the greeting, so which we've done, yeah, and we both did, I think, the teacher background, ringing the bell to start the session and using that throughout the session, just as it's easily recognisable for people who don't necessarily have strong English, that signifies a change. And then we're off singing the welcome song, which we've already done. After that, the first thing we do every week, which in the structure of the 10-week program is actually the second week of the theme, is the weather, and we created a weather chart in the second week which looks like that, and you can see it's a bit ratty now after a term, and Tricia said she's destroyed hers. Yes. But what we do is we talk to the kids, we sing the weather song, and we talk to the kids and to the parents and carers about what's the weather today. And at Girraween we had very high windows, so we had everyone running to the side doors to peer through to see what the weather is and discuss the weather, and then come back and we choose a child and they move the arrow on the weather chart for everybody and get a big round of applause. Sometimes the kids are very reluctant to speak up and don't have the confidence or the language skills, and sometimes the parents do it, and it's as much about them being empowered to feel confident to speak out. So that's yeah, it's a good way to start off, and it's that repetition again every week where we always start with the weather and singing the weather song. Okay. Over to Trish again.
And then we introduce our theme for the week. So this week we're going to be going through the colours theme that we've, both Angela and I have run in our sessions. We try to choose a different theme each week. We've had a variety: transport, animals, my body, what else? Colours, shapes, all of those. Numbers. You can always numbers. You can, and we can have a list of others that we would love to expand upon. So we can give people an outline of a variety of different topics that they could do. So this one today we're going to look at colours. So we always talk, formally introduce the theme for the week. Today we're going to talk about colours. We'll always use some sort of prop, some sort of physical prop to to introduce the topic. So for this one in particular, I just made different coloured dots, and we talked about, you know, which colour is this? And we always try to create a situation where we can model what, how to say something, and they can repeat it back to us. So everybody, this is green, green. Can you all say green? And the children will respond, and they'll say green.
Ready to say green, mate.
Yeah. So what's this one? And so you'll have the children that will already know, and they'll be interacting. But we're encouraging not just the children to respond, but the parents as well. So even though that they're sort of in that mode, sort of modelling with their children, but some of them will be some will be learning to speak some of these words as well at that time. So we will formally introduce it, and then we will create a facilitated activity. Oh, no, we won't. I told him. We'll actually have an introductory song on that theme. So this one is If You're Wearing Red Today, which is a really fun song to sing, and it's sung to the tune of Mary Had a Little Lamb. So it's getting the children and the parents to interact. So you're starting with, if you're wearing red today, please stand up. So then in that moment, the parents are looking with the child, are you wearing red today? Oh, you're wearing red, and they stand up. And we can go through all of the colours that you've shown, and it's just reinforcing the colours that you've just introduced, and also getting the children to interact with their parents and to interact with me. And it gives everybody also an opportunity to participate in a safe and nurturing environment, which is what we do want to create with Let's, is a safe and nurturing environment where every child can participate and every adult can participate in a positive way. So we do an introductory song. This was our introductory song, and then we move into a facilitated activity. And again, with the facilitated activity, it's something that will allow every single person to participate again. And some children won't. There will be the child that will refuse to participate. There will be the child that may cry throughout the whole session or hide behind their mother.
Not sit still.
And not yeah, and please sit down. Please sit down. So you'll have that. And then you'll see over the 10 weeks that those children that are not participating for the first 6 weeks will be participating for the next 4 weeks. And you'll see that change over time. And we always talk with parents, say, look, don't worry if he's upset. Don't worry if he's not joining in. You know, you'll see, he'll just keep coming back, and you'll see that they'll change. And I've had a child in my first 10 weeks that didn't speak until the 8th week, not a word. And then now she came back for the second lot of Let's, and she's you can't stop her. So it does take time and patience. So the facilitated activities, you try to actively encourage all children to participate. It needs to be a non-threatening, positive, tactile activity, and encourage conversation between parent and child. So the facilitated activities for colours, again we would use these dots. So we put out our dots with reinforce. So what are these colours again? We'd have them out on the floor here, and then what I did is I gave every child a little bag, and inside that bag was a series of items. So got a truck, lots of tactile things. Got a white pom-pom, maraca, and a car. So here's some examples here. And so in that time, they would then talk to their parents. So you say to the parents, you know, so get your children to tell you, what colour is the item? What is the item? Maybe you could count. How many wheels does the item have? So encourage them to talk to each other about each of the items, and in particular, what is the colour? And then we'll bring everybody back. So, okay, if you've got something yellow, come and bring it forward. Come and bring it forward. And if you're getting everyone that's, you know, got an item, or all of them would have a yellow anyway, if you're getting all of them to participate, again, it's non-threatening. They're not going to get it wrong. It's not an issue. And they come and they bring it out and they put it on the yellow dot. So what they're doing is classifying. So it's a great early learning skill anyway. Same with the blue and the white, and then the red and the red and whatever other item that you've got. So a nice non-threatening facilitated activity, reinforcing those colours. And then we move on to a song that again will reinforce those colours. So we've got I Can Sing a Rainbow, is the song that we sang at the time. Then we move on to probably one of the most important parts, which is the sharing of the book. And so many of you will be used to reading a story maybe at rhyme time or story time. When choosing a Let's book though, a Let's book would be quite a different book to many of your story time books. So there is a real difference between a story time book and a Let's book. So what makes a suitable Let's book? A suitable Let's book has simple language. It also has an easy to follow storyline. So if it does have a storyline, it needs to be very, very clear. Repetition and rhyme is a fantastic tool to have in any of the Let's storybooks, because of course you will have that opportunity to, if you've got a rhyming word, you might stop before that rhyming word, and then it will encourage the children to maybe prompt the children to participate in the book. Or the rhyme again, so if, repetition again, if it's going over again, they get to join in the book. So again, that's allowing that bit of verbal interaction. Clear and simple message, so nothing that's nothing really symbolic or airy-fairy. It needs to be a very clear message, so it'll allow that clear conversation at the end, and very clear print as well. So this is, I love Nick Sharratt books. I've actually in the process of ordering some more Nick Sharratt books for the Let's program. His books are very beautiful in terms of clear pictures, clear language, and a lot of his books are geared towards simple concepts that the Let's program will cover. Other ones are the Maisie books are fabulous. Who else? And the Andrew Dado books are quite nice as well. But yeah, I really tend to like them. What do you tend to use?
Thinking some of your old classics, like we use the Hungry Caterpillar.
Yes, the Hungry Caterpillar is fantastic, and just very simple books like that. So this one is really great. Something beginning with blue. What I like about this book is when I was working with the parents, it follows the I Spy with My Little Eye concept, and again you can sort of say to parents, this is a really great game that you can do at home with your child. Maybe you could be in the trip in the car or on the bus, and you can do I Spy with My Little Eye, something beginning with, and reinforce those colours at home as well. So again, getting that language going at home. So I'll just show you just the first part here, something beginning with blue. So I Spy with My Little Eye, something beginning with blue. It isn't the sky, and it isn't blue sea. It's 550 times bigger than me. And then this allows you a bit of prompting, what could be big and blue? So again, that interaction with the children. And what is it? It's a blue whale. Okay, so it's really very, very simple and clear. What we do try to do when reading the book is follow these prompts. Now, of course, not for every book are you going to be putting each of these prompts and questions in, but it's something to keep in mind if you're questioning while reading aloud, because of course you want to encourage, again, that discussion of the book, the discussion of the language and the story and so forth, that comprehension, basic comprehension, and again you're modelling to parents what they can be asking their children when they're reading at home as well. So this is about, the whole idea is modelling to parents how to read to your child. So you may use a completion prompt, and that's that sort of thing where you've got the rhyme at the end, so you'll stop, and then they will allow and finish that rhyme, or finish the end of the line. A recall prompt, I'll go through actually. I've got this Reading Rockets handout, which I can hand out a little bit later. I don't know if I've got enough for everyone, but if you haven't got one of the handouts today, if you leave your email, we can email it to you.
This was something that Edith Lork at Belmont introduced us to when she was doing this session in the presentation at the conference, and so we'll sort of be able to share it with you, but it was just sort of such a neat acronym.
Yeah, it was. So with the completion prompts, you leave a blank at the end of a sentence and get the child to fill it in. So these are typically used in books with rhyme or books with repetitive phrases. And for example, you might say, I think I'd be a glossy cat, a little plump but not too fat. Yeah. So letting the child fill in the blank word for the word fat. Okay, recall prompt was these are questions about what happened in the book. a child has already read. So these will be closed questioning techniques. So it'll have, it'll have a right or a wrong kind of answer. So can you tell me what happened to the little blue engine in this story? So it will just be closed questioning. And then you can also use some open-ended questions. And these prompts focus on the pictures in the books, and they work best for books that have rich, detailed illustrations. For example, while looking at a page in a book that the child is familiar with, you might say, tell me what's happening in this picture. Open-ended prompts help children increase their expressive fluency and attention to detail. And then you've got the what questions, who, what, where, when, why, which are, again, are closed questions, but it just gives a different sort of focus. And then the distancing prompts, which allow children to reflect, distance themselves from the text, but reflect on their own lives and their own lives, and bring that linkage to the story. Okay.